Good morning, good afternoon, good evening wherever you are in the world. Right now, in this moment, I want you to stop and ask yourself something powerful. It's simple, but it's profound. Are you truly living the life you were born to live? Let that settle in. Because here's the truth, and I want you to hear this like your life depends on it. Because in many ways, it does. You are not broken. You are not limited. You are not your past. You are powerful beyond measure. But let me ask you something even more important. If you're powerful beyond measure, why aren't you living that way? Most people, they're not really living. They're surviving. They're reacting. They're managing pain. They've learned how to cope, but not how to thrive. They wake up tired. They go through the motions. They settle for less. They tolerate toxic relationships, unfulfilling jobs, and financial stress. They've convinced themselves that this is just how life is. But that's not true. That's a lie. Let me be your mirror right now. You were made for more. And deep down, you know it. That's why you're here. That's why you're listening. Something inside you is hungry. And I want you to honor that hunger. Because hunger is the beginning of all transformation. Now let's talk about what drives human behavior. Everything we do, and I mean EVERYTHING, is driven by either pain or pleasure. Every choice you've made has been about either avoiding pain or moving toward pleasure. That's it. You procrastinate. That's pain avoidance. You lash out in an argument. You're trying to avoid emotional discomfort. You skip the gym, Benji. Stay in the wrong relationship. Avoid making that business call. It's all rooted in what your brain has learned to link to pain and pleasure. But here's the kicker. Most people are running a program they didn't even write. They're following beliefs and patterns that were installed by their parents, their culture, their trauma, their past failures. And they never stop to challenge it. Let me tell you something. A belief is a feeling of certainty about what something means. That's all it is. It's not truth. It's not reality. It's just a story you've repeated to yourself so many times that it feels like truth. But here's the breakthrough. You can change your story right now. You don't have to wait. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need permission. You need a DECISION. Let me say this loud and clear. It is in your moments of decision that your destiny is shaped, not in your conditions, not in your circumstances, not in your education or your bank account or your family, in your decisions. And the most powerful decision you can make is the decision to raise your standards. You don't get your goals, you get your standards. If your standard is to get by, you'll get by. If your standard is to be fit enough, you'll be just fit enough not to feel guilty. But if your standard is to be in peak physical shape, to wake up energized and bulletproof health, then that becomes your identity, and you'll start acting in alignment with that. Let me give you an example. If someone identifies as a smoker, and you offer them a cigarette and they say, "I'm trying to quit," they're still a smoker in their mind. That's still their identity. But if someone says, "I'm not a smoker," boom, that's a whole different decision, a different identity, a different standard. When you shift your identity, you shift your actions. And when you shift your actions, you change your life. So let me ask you, what's one area of your life right now where you've been tolerating instead of thriving? Is it your health? your finances, your relationships, your confidence. Pick one. I want you to D-C. I-D, not hope, not wish, not think about it, D. I-D-E. I-D-E. You are no longer available for the version of you that accepts mediocrity in that area. Burn the boats. Raise your standard. Set a new identity. Now let's go even deeper. Because decisions alone aren't enough unless they're powered by emotion. Emotion is the fuel of transformation. You can know what to do, but if you're not in the right emotional state, you won't do it. Have you ever had a day where you felt unstoppable? Like you could take on the world? You probably got 10 times more done in that one day than you did in an entire week before. That's the power of state. So here's a secret most people never learn. You can control your state right now, in this moment. Your state is determined by 3 things. 1, your physiology, how you use your body. 2, your focus, what you're choosing to look at. 3, your language, the words you use to describe your life. Let's break this down. If you sit slumped over, breathe shallowly, frown, and say, nothing ever works out for me, you're going to feel depressed. That's a depressed state. But if you stand tall, breathe deeply, smile, put your shoulders back, and say, I've got this, I'm in charge, you're shifting your state immediately. You don't have to wait for motivation. You generate it. You don't have to wait for the right time. You create the time. You don't have to wait until you feel like it. You act first, and the feelings follow. That's what leaders do. That's what warriors do. That's what you are here to do. Listen to me, and this might be the most important thing I'll say today. Your past does not equal your future. Just because you've struggled with something for years doesn't mean it has to take years to change. Change can happen in an instant the moment you truly decide and act with certainty. Not dabble. Not try. D-C-I-D. When I made the decision to stop living in a 400 square foot apartment, washing dishes in my bathtub because I had no kitchen, and working as a janitor, I didn't say, maybe someday I'll be successful. I said, N-O-U-G-H. I-W-I-L-L, change my life, N-O-W. And I did. Not overnight. But the shift began in a moment. A powerful decision. A higher standard. A new story. You can do the same. Right now, I want you to feel that fire rising in your chest. That's the real you. That's the you that remembers what it's like to dream, to believe, to fight. And we're just getting started. Now that you've awakened that fire inside you, it's time to confront the one thing that's been silently sabotaging your success, your limiting beliefs. These beliefs are not facts, they are invisible chains you've allowed to bind you, to keep you small, to keep you from rising. Maybe somewhere along the way, someone told you that you weren't smart enough, strong enough, talented enough, worthy enough. And without even realizing it, you started believing it. You built your habits, your decisions, your goals, your identity all around a false limitation. But here's what I want you to hear in your soul right now. You are not your limitations. You are not your failures. You are not your fears. You are the author of your life. And the pen has always been in your hand, even if someone else gave you the script. You don't need to live by it anymore. Beliefs are nothing more than repeated thoughts with emotional intensity. That's it. They're not concrete. They're not destiny. They're patterns, and patterns can be broken, replaced, rewritten. Think about it. If you had been born in a different country, with a different culture, different parents, you'd believe totally different things. So, how can you base your worth or your limits on beliefs that came from chance? It's time to replace limiting beliefs with empowering truths. And that begins with asking better questions. Instead of why do I always fail? Ask, what can I learn here that will make me unstoppable? Instead of what if I'm not good enough? Ask, what version of me must rise to meet this moment? You see, the quality of your life is the quality of your questions. Disempowering questions produce disempowering answers. But ask an empowering question, and you shift your focus. And what you focus on, you feel. What you feel, you do. What you do consistently becomes your life. So let's flip the script. Right now, take one belief that has held you back, just one. Maybe it's, I'm bad with money, or I always mess up relationships, or I can't lose the weight. Now challenge that belief. Where did it come from? Who gave it to you? Is it absolutely true, or is it just a convenient excuse not to grow? Now replace it. Say out loud, that was the old me. The new me is a master of my finances. The new me attracts love because I radiate love. The new me is healthy, strong and disciplined. You might think that's cheesy, but guess what? Your brain believes what you repeat, whether it's empowering or disempowering. So why not condition greatness instead of guilt? Why not train your brain for victory instead of victimhood? You must understand change is not about information. If it were, everyone would be fit, rich, and happy just from Googling how to change your life. Change is about immersion. It's about conditioning yourself daily until the new beliefs become second nature. That's what I did. I didn't just read a book and hope. I fed my mind every day, trained my body every day, challenged my patterns every day. Repetition is the mother of skill. And transformation is not a one-time event, it's a habit. One powerful habit, repeated with consistency, can take you further in 6 months than most people go in 6 years. Let's talk about momentum. Most people underestimate the power of momentum. They want change, but they wait until they feel ready. Let me tell you something. You don't need to feel ready, you need to get moving. Clarity comes from engagement, not thought. Progress builds confidence. Confidence builds identity. Identity reinforces action. It's a loop, a beautiful loop that can spiral upward if you decide to take the first step. Start small. Start now. Make the call. Write the goal. Do the workout. Open the savings account. Say no to the thing you've been tolerating. The moment you act differently, you interrupt the pattern. And that interruption creates space for the new you to breathe. Fear, the real beast behind your hesitation. Fear of failure. Fear of rejection. Fear of looking stupid. But let me tell you something powerful. Fear is not the enemy, it's the compass. It points to exactly where you need to grow. The obstacle is not in your way. It is the way. If you're not afraid, you're not growing. And if you're not growing, you're dying. So honor your fear, but don't obey it. Step into it. Dance with it. Let it energize you instead of paralyze you. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's acting in spite of it. Think of any person you admire. They all felt fear, but they made a decision to trust themselves more than they trusted their doubt. And that made all the difference. You must become addicted not to comfort, but to growth. Comfort is a beautiful place, but nothing ever grows there. Growth is messy. It's uncomfortable. It's scary, but it's also sacred. Because on the other side of your discomfort is your destiny. You're not here to play small. You're here to expand, to contribute. to lead, to love, to become the version of yourself that inspires others just by living fully. That's what the world needs, not more people who follow the script, but more people who burn the script and write their own. And let me say this clearly, you already have everything you need inside you. The strength, the courage, the wisdom, the creativity, the grit. You don't need to be fixed. You need to be unleashed. You need to remove the layers of doubt, fear, shame, and lies that have been piled on you by years of playing it safe. Underneath all of that is the real you, the powerful you, the unstoppable force of nature that remembers how to rise, how to fight, how to love, how to lead. This journey, your journey, is not about perfection. It's about progress. It's about falling and rising, breaking and rebuilding. It's about waking up every day and saying, today I get another chance. Today I grow. Today I serve. Today I conquer. And when you start stacking those kinds of days, imperfect but powerful, you build a life that becomes a masterpiece. Because the truth is, most people live the same year 75 times and call it a life. But not you. You're here because something inside you refuses to die in comfort. Something in you wants to live in power. And that power grows with every decision, every action, every time you step outside the old and into the bold. And here's the gift you didn't expect when you grow. You give. When you rise, others rise with you. Your courage becomes contagious. Your transformation becomes permission for others to transform. That's how leaders are made. That's how legacies are built. Not in silence, not in waiting, but in bold, imperfect, beautiful action. Now that you've awakened your inner fire and broken through the chains of limitation, the real question is, what will you do with this power? Because power without purpose leads to emptiness. Success without meaning is the ultimate failure. You weren't given this strength just to improve your bank account, your body, or your business, though those things matter. You are given this strength to impact lives, to make your life mean something beyond your name, beyond your comfort. You were born to lead. And leadership isn't about titles or followers. Leadership is about vision. It's about energy. It's about who you become and how many lives are better because you existed. Every single day you are either being pulled by your past or propelled by your future. The past is familiar. It's comfortable. It's known, but it's over. It's a memory. It's a reference point, not a destination. The future, on the other hand, is uncertain, and that's what makes it powerful. It holds possibility, creation. The unknown, and the unknown is where magic lies. That's where your next level waits. But to reach it, you must stop rehearsing your history and start imagining your destiny. You must begin with the end in mind, not the end of a goal, but the end of your life. What do you want people to say about you when you're gone? What kind of mark do you want to leave? Because when you start living with legacy in mind, everything changes. You start choosing growth over comfort. You start listening more deeply. You start giving more generously. You stop sweating the small stuff because you're building something bigger than yourself. And you realize that life was never about what you could get, it was always about what you could give. That's where fulfillment lies. Fulfillment doesn't come from what you accumulate. It comes from who you become in the process of creating, contributing, and loving at full capacity. That's the gift. That's the reward. And no paycheck or applause can replace that. So the question now is, how do you live like that? How do you stay in that state? That alignment, that mission when life gets loud, when stress shows up, when old habits creep back in? You must develop rituals, daily rituals, that keep you connected to your vision and your power. Morning rituals that prime your state, evening rituals that reset your focus, emotional rituals that lift your energy, strategic rituals that move your goals forward. Winners don't wait for the world to inspire them. They create the environment that calls out their greatness every single day. And it doesn't have to be complex. 10 minutes of gratitude in the morning can change your entire day. A powerful workout can shift your entire emotional state. Listening to empowering content instead of negative news rewires your brain. Surrounding yourself with people who push you to grow instead of tolerate your excuses that can transform your identity. You are the result of your rituals. If you don't like your results, change your rituals. Design your life with intention, not convenience. But here's where it gets real. Growth requires sacrifice. You can't become the person you were born to be and still hold on to the habits, distractions, and relationships that belong to your past. That's the hard truth. And that's why most people don't transform. They want change, but they won't release. They want evolution, but they won't surrender. But freedom doesn't come from adding more. It comes from letting go. Letting go of the victim mindset. Letting go of the need for approval. Letting go of procrastination, perfectionism, and pretending. When you finally stop trying to be liked and start living to be true, that's when your life catches fire. And let me say this with absolute clarity. There is no perfect time to start, no perfect plan, no perfect conditions. There's just this moment, right here, right now. This breath. This decision. And it's enough. You don't need to see the whole path. You just need to take the next step. Confidence doesn't come from knowing everything. It comes from doing something. From stepping into the unknown and realizing that you didn't die. You grew. You expanded. You proved to yourself that you are capable. That's where certainty is built. Not in comfort, but in courageous action. And when you show up consistently, when you rise even when you're tired, when you push even when it's hard, when you give even when you're afraid, something shifts inside you. You stop doubting yourself. You stop questioning your worth. You stop hesitating. Because now you've built a track record of power. Now you know who you are. You've got evidence. You've got momentum. And momentum is the most powerful force in the universe because it compounds. One strong decision leads to another. One win builds another. One breakthrough becomes a domino that topples the limitations of your entire past. That's the moment you stop surviving and start leading. You begin to think bigger, speak bolder, love deeper, act faster. You no longer wait for permission, you become the permission. You no longer chase success, you become success. Because success is not something you achieve, it's something you embody. It's a state, a frequency, a vibration that magnetizes opportunities, people, ideas, and resources to you. When you operate from that level, from purpose, power, and passion, you become unstoppable. And that's what I want for you. I don't want you to just be motivated. I want you to be transformed. I want you to feel your power in your bones. I want you to walk into a room and shift the energy because you've done the work to become someone who lives fully, serves deeply, and leads unapologetically. The world doesn't need more people playing it safe. It needs people who are lit up, on fire with purpose, and bold enough to live it out loud. So now I leave you with this. What will your life stand for? What will you be remembered for? Will you have regrets, or will you have a story worth telling? Will you look back and say, I should have? Or will you say, I did? Will you be the one who waited, or the one who lead? Because leadership is not about having it all together. It's about stepping up when it counts. It's about taking responsibility for your gifts. And your gift is not meant to be hidden. Your life is not meant to be average. You were not born to blend in. You were born to stand out. And you don't have to do it alone. Find your tribe. Surround yourself with warriors. Get mentorship. Invest in yourself. You are worth the time, worth the energy, worth the effort. Every breakthrough starts with one bold soul who said, "I'm not settling." Let that be you. Let this be your moment. Right now, right here. Stand tall, breathe deep. Step forward. Your destiny is waiting. Let's go get it.